We are here with Nicholas Alexander Carazza, my brother, and Fabio Campanella. Fabio, your name could not be more Italian.
It might be able to be more Italian. Do you have a middle name?
Domenico.
Oh, see, it can be.
Fabio Domenico Campanella.
There you go.
You cannot, that is the max Italian.
You might as well just call me a pizza or a pasta or something, right?
Holy smokes. When you were born in Canada, though?
Yes.
Where? Toronto?
Woodbridge,
I believe.
You believe. You don't know where you were born. But when your parents named you, they went all out. Fabio Domenico Campanella. Holy smokes. Where did you go to school?
I went to school in Downsview in North York. That's where I started off. Then switched over to Thornhill. I was like the only Italian kid.
Really?
No, I'm joking.
Okay,
there were actually a lot of Italian kids.
I was going to say, had a heart attack there.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're talking about that Fab drove up here in a Tesla, and I just mentioned that I got a Tesla as well.
Yeah.
I feel like
that you've been waiting for 6 months, and it might be another 6.
Since June. Basically, Fab, just so you know, ever since Elon Musk said Bitcoin is bad, I've wanted to give my Tesla back. But then I've waited so long and got so lazy. I have this deposit. I haven't done anything yet. Apparently going to get it but I don't think Elon would really mind, because I think there's 100 buyers for every single Tesla they put out, because I was supposed to get it in June and I still haven't got it. And now they just updated yesterday till October. But you're liking your Tesla.
You know, I really like it. Honestly, it takes getting used to with respect to recharging and whatnot, but it's a smooth drive. The tech is amazing. If you're like a minimalist with design, which I am, then it's perfect. But if you like bells and whistles all over your car, then it's going to be crap for you.
It's weird that everybody who has a Tesla likes it. There must be something crap.
I think after you spend that much money in the car, you have to, and it's not like super flashy or anything. You just have to justify your purchase, and that's why they say it.
No, but people who get a Model 3s aren't that expensive, and people like the Model 3s.
Yeah, I guess. It is cool. To your point, I mean, the ones I've seen is just, there's nothing there. There's just a big iPad that's the control panel, and then there's an accelerator and a steering wheel.
Buying an iPad with wheels. That's basically
You're
what this
essentially
is.
Buying a computer with an electric motor. That's the way I look at it.
In it, and you just drive it.
Yeah.
It's like driving around in your laptop.
You got it. And if you're not a car guy, like I'm not a car guy, I don't care about feeling the power, hearing the engine roar. I don't care about that stuff. I just want to go.
Yeah.
But we know car guys that love it. Like there's a guy here that got rid of his Maserati, and he had a Maserati and a Tesla, and he got rid of the Maserati, just kept the Tesla. He likes it so much.
He had the S? Because the S is a beast.
The S and the fast version of it with
he got the ludicrous mode. Yeah. I didn't.
And it's crazy. Like it's crazy because he took us for a ride in it, and I'm like, when he hits the gas, like I was like, whoa, it is fast.
Yeah, I didn't get the Plaid, which is now the super fast one. I have the long range one, which I think the battery's 680 kilometers.
That's what I got. The long range.
Okay. Yeah. And then now, but it only goes 0 to 60 in 3.1 seconds or
3.2.
So it's really. Yeah, it's really slow. A good friend of mine has a Porsche that goes 0 to 60 in 3.6. He's like, wait a second, your 4-door sedan goes 0 to 60 faster.
These electric motors, man, the electric motors are changing everything. There's just the amount of energy waste is like minimal compared to the combustion engines.
The thing that I'm disappointed is last time I got the X5 that had green plates, who was in power? Was that a federal program? I got money back.
Yeah, you did.
I think I got $12,000 back. Now they got rid of these programs. I really want to get a check back from the government because I'm saving the world by getting this Tesla. How much energy was expended to create the Tesla?
And what happens to the batteries after the fact?
If you don't get the rebate, you actually get a better capitalization rate in your company and more CCA and more HST back.
Oh, because I had to take that rebate off the price of the car.
So what happens is you get a different class of CCA. So you, in essence, you can capitalize 55,000 of the car and depreciate that rather than 30,000.
Yeah, got it. Okay, got it. It takes an accountant to figure something. So what are you trained in? You're an accountant?
So I'm a CPA or CA, whatever you want to call it, depending on how old you are. For us, it's CA.
I thought it was one was the US, one was Canadian. No?
They remarketed chartered accountant here in Canada to chartered professional accountant so that they could have the same acronym as the US.
Oh, right? I didn't know that.
More better international recognition, whatever. And they merged the CMAs and the CGAs into the same pot. So they just created a new designation, right? So my original training was pure accounting in CA, CPA, whatever route. Then I became a CFP, which is Certified Financial Planner. Then I became a chartered investment manager, and I got my IROC license for retail investing.
What did they teach you at Certified Financial Planner? A 60-40 diversified portfolio? And
that's pretty much what they do, right? I don't want to talk bad about it. But
those are a lot of multiple choice.
I know you don't. We will talk badly about
those are a lot of multiple choice quizzes you have to take.
Listen, all these designations, you're lucky you're here. You're lucky we don't have financial planner people.
Well, but then I also got the life insurance license, and then I got my tax specialization with the in-depth course.
We got our podcast license a while ago, and our YouTube channel license.
So I did too much. I think I did too much.
But the reason that we keep bringing you back here is because you know a crap load of good stuff on all this together. And I think it's the marriage of the financial planning and the accounting and all this stuff together. But today, was it a post that you wrote about taxes on crypto?
Right. So obviously,
Bitcoin itself isn't crypto. It's completely separate. So whatever you're about to share doesn't apply to Bitcoin. I just want you to know what you share about taxes right now applies to all the other stuff that we call crypto. Bitcoin is by itself in another world. Just that's the way I view it in my mind.
Obviously, the popularity of Bitcoin, with you guys, your listeners for sure are probably piling a ton of money into it. A lot of my clients are putting money into it. And the popularity of Bitcoin has just skyrocketed. And then other cryptos, cryptocurrencies, other digital sort of assets, right? And, these new asset classes are really stumping the tax community, I think, because there's no precedent really for it. So they need to create policies upon which they can base their taxation decisions, right? So if you open up the Income Tax Act, you're not going to see Bitcoin in the Income Tax Act. So there's no legislation that says this is how we're going to tax Bitcoin. So what do you have to do? You have to go to interpretation by the regulator or the enforcer, right? The CRA. You have to go to the courts. You have to go to other tax professionals who can make an informed decision. So I think that this might not be the most exciting podcast, but I think it's going to be worthwhile for your listeners if they're investing in Bitcoin.
And why do we have to go to somebody to make an informed decision if it's not in the Income Tax Act, if I'm saying that correctly? Yeah. Can't I just say, and I know the answer here, but can't I just say, well, it's not in the Income Tax Act. I'm not paying tax on this.
Right.
You can. You should.
Yeah.
No, I know. I understand CRA is not going to like that, but you can't play like that.
You really can if you don't mind something called jail, right? Because that's where they're going to throw you if you don't.
But I'm asking seriously because I guess I'm everything that is not outlined specifically in the Income Tax Act is still covered by the Income Tax Act. Is that the way it works?
Well, remember, we're in a common law country. Right. So we're not in let's say, call it a civil law jurisdiction, let's say, in Europe, for example, where everything is legislated. Right. So we're in a common law country. We have more flexibility in the way that we apply laws. Right. So there's the legislation, like the written laws, and then there's judges' cases, which set precedents. And then there's the regulator or the collector, the tax collector, the agency, the CRA, right? And they have their own interpretation of things. So the idea is anytime there is a financial transaction or a transaction between multiple individuals or two individuals at least, whereby there is some sort of exchange that can be measured financially, you have a potentially taxable transaction, okay? And Bitcoin is an asset. If you go by the definition of an asset, it is something that holds value, right? That holds monetary value that can be measured in some sort of a legal currency, right? So any transaction in Bitcoin is going to attract a potential tax or a potential sort of collection of tax, right? So how does that happen? How does that work, right? And the way it works really is you have to narrow down what the transaction is. Right? But before you narrow down the transaction, you have to understand some basic concepts of taxation. So in Canada, right, there's really two ways that something like Bitcoin could be taxed. It's either going to be business or capital, right? And I think you guys understand that concept with real estate, right? So with real estate, you buy a property, okay? Maybe you put in a tenant, you have rents, and that's pretty well established. You have rents come in and they're taxable, right? But then when you buy and sell real estate, that's where the gray area comes in. Is it on capital? Like, is it a capital gain or a capital loss? Or is it some sort of a business income? So that's a very important concept to understand before you even get into the details of how Bitcoin is taxed.
Okay, so just before we go further, then, just for everybody listening, the reason CRA would think as a real estate investor, what you're doing could be business income would be that if you are buying and selling properties repeatedly, maybe 2 a year for 5 years, it's hard to argue that this is a capital gain that you're getting for whatever detail I do not understand. But it looks to CRA that this is more a business activity that you're buying with the intent of selling, so that it's not really an investment. This is actually some kind of business activity. And we're going to tax this as business income or as income, as opposed to being able to use capital gains on these things.
And
was that kind
That's
of
a very
accurate?
good interpretation.
Okay.
Yes.
And so does the same thing apply if you're a trader? Like, I mean, let's say your income is derived from, you're a stock trader. So then is it considered business income versus capital gains? I guess
It could be with anything
type
of asset, right? Now, if you rewind, I think it might have been even a year ago when I came on with Joseph Lepresti and he went through that list for real estate.
Which was great, by the way.
That was a great podcast.
And that's worth a listen, okay? Because the rules and the interpretation surrounding the taxation of real estate are very well developed, because it's a very well developed asset class.
And this
right?
one's new.
Exactly. Right. So it's not just the intention, the frequency, but it's a multitude of different factors that come into play with real estate. And what you're going to see here is that the same thing happens with Bitcoin. Okay. The difference is it's brand new, and this is going to change over time, likely.
So here's my thing is, this world moves so fast. The government moves so slow, right? So like some people have been trading Bitcoin for years. Let's not even say go back to the beginning, but let's just say 3 years ago, 4 years ago, people started trading Bitcoin and they've made some profits here. And then, so the government's obviously, once the legislation is introduced, if they have if there's paper trails of that, they're going to go back and try to tax those people. How far back can they go in this world? Because other things are coming out so rapidly that the world is moving with technology now at such a pace. The government regulations can't keep up. They're going to keep falling further and further behind. So they're never going to be able to catch up. This is my opinion. So like, where does this go? Like, how much do you?
Yeah, how much is this retroactive?
Yeah,
Well, technically, they can go back 3 years. Right.
I thought it was 7.
Well, they can go back 3 years from the date of the assessment under normal circumstances. But if they think that there's been something fishy and they there's been fraud, for example, they can go back 50 years. They can go back as far as they.
So
really
fraud is if you just don't. Let's say I was trading Bitcoin 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
I bought it at $10. I sold it at 100. And they don't. In 2 years, the regulations come out, so they can then come back. Like, it's more than 3 years old. Is that fraud?
Generally,
if I don't claim something, is that fraud?
Generally speaking, they're going to go back 3 years.
Okay.
Fraud would be,
malicious intent.
You knew you were supposed to report this and you didn't.
Okay.
And the
So
classic
3 years.
example, the classic example is you sold a pound of cocaine for cash. So you're obviously a criminal.
I love that. That's the classic. The classic example.
That's the Fabio Domenico.
That's the Fabio Domenico Campanella.
Well, that transaction is actually taxable, and that's actually it's
no way.
Yeah. Proceeds of crime are taxable, right?
Oh my gosh.
So that's a classic transaction.
Actually, I know this. I don't know why that just jumped into my mind. Somebody at the airport just got a fine that we know for not going into, not just back in July, for not doing the hotel quarantine or whatever. The fine was taxable. So they got a fine from, I guess, the health department of Canada or whatever. But then they taxed it. So they're paying tax on the fine.
But this is interesting because
that's weird.
I'm getting this through the grapevine. I'm getting this through the grapevine. I have not seen it myself, but that's what I was told.
But if you're a drug dealer and then they can't catch you on the cocaine charges, but you're paying your tax because you're claiming all the revenue, then because sometimes they get you on these other tax charges. Then they can't get you on those. Yeah. So you should just claim the income.
So you're dealing cocaine, pay your tax.
This is a good lesson for everyone.
You likely can't go down. The police will have to catch you.
What's the code you're going to put on your business form, right? Coke dealer. It's not going to work. Right? It's not going to work.
Okay.
Right. Just buy Bitcoin in a cold wallet, and then nobody will find you. Right.
Okay. So keep going.
So the first concept is business versus capital, right? So if you go to the I need the notes because I can't remember all this crap, right? So the big thing they're looking at are you carrying on a commercial activity, right? Or are you just buying something and holding it, right? So if you're carrying on a commercial activity, you're undertaking business-like, you're doing things in a business-like manner. You have a website, you're posting Twitter posts about this thing all the time. Essentially, use your gut. Are you running a business or are you doing something else, right? If you're running a business, you're looking at any asset. It could be Bitcoin, it could be gold, it could be anything. If you're running a business, it's going to be business on account of business when you report your taxes, right? If you're not, you may get capital gains treatment. So that's the first thing that people have to understand, okay? The next thing they have to understand is what the heck are you actually doing with Bitcoin? And I've identified essentially 3 things you could be doing with Bitcoin. You could be mining Bitcoin. You could be transacting in Bitcoin to buy and sell other products or whatnot, okay, or services. Or you could be speculating on Bitcoin to make a profit, right? When you buy
so in the speculation bucket for your framework there, is that just also just holding it? For
you're buying Bitcoin.
Okay.
You're buying Bitcoin.
Okay,
right?
Got it.
Now, those are the 3.
I guess you used the word speculating there, and I'm just not speculating. What
You're
are you
investing
talking about?
in
This
Bitcoin.
is the best thing I've ever.
Let's say you're investing in
Got
Bitcoin.
it. Okay.
Right?
Got it.
There are a multitude of other theoretical transactions that we're not going to cover because they're way
but that covers the vast majority.
Yeah. Like we're not talking about underwriting futures or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So for those 3 transactions, right? Let's start with mining. All right. So maybe you guys are probably better at explaining this. What is mining Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, running computers to solve this cryptography, to kind of find the hash, to get the block reward, earning yourself some Bitcoin.
Exactly.
That's a business activity to me.
Exactly. So you're mining Bitcoin, which means you're literally creating Bitcoin and you're being rewarded with more Bitcoin. You're being compensated with Bitcoin. Clearly, it's a business transaction. It's clearly a business transaction.
And I guess we should say we're talking about Bitcoin, and because the network's grown so much, and the miners are really just large, almost institutions now. Like they're companies, full blown companies. Where some people with some other cryptocurrencies are still mining these types of things with some sort of more home setup. It might be more applicable to those people doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're running a business where you have like a huge data center and you're mining all kinds of
most
Bitcoin,
of the miners
right?
At this point,
yeah.
No, it's not. You don't have the GPU power to do it at home anymore. So it's all data centers and stuff like that. But the smaller cryptos, the smaller other, I don't even want to call them currencies, but anyways, the other coins, some of them people can do them at home still with that type of with a simple setup.
But you're clearly creating some sort of you're creating a product and you're being compensated to create that product. You're providing a service in essence. So it's the same thing as providing any service, right? Then the next thing that you could be doing is you could be buying and selling other things with Bitcoin that you own, right? So let's say you guys sell me a product and you take payment in Bitcoin, right? Now we're entering into something where this is completely brand new, right? So the government doesn't really have any rules or regulations on this. So they defer to what we know as the barter transaction rules or the barter transaction concept where, I'm an accountant and you're a lawyer and I trade accounting services for legal services. We've bartered. These are taxable transactions, right? We're supposed to actually, I do $2,000 of accounting work, you do $2,000 of legal work. We're supposed to charge each other that and collect.
Don't make
HST.
me laugh. Yeah. Don't make me laugh. Don't make me laugh.
The more I hear this,
don't make me laugh. Yeah. We're supposed to report a barter. So if somebody's going to cut my grass in exchange for me helping them do something, I'm supposed to call CRA and report this barter transaction.
Well, you don't do that?
Yeah.
CRA is going to come knocking at your door for that $30.
For the record, I've always been doing that. I would like to proclaim that I've always been doing that, Nick, and I'm surprised that you haven't, which I can tell that you haven't based on your tone of voice right now. So I would like to call that.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it logically, right, you would have paid cash for somebody to mow your lawn, right? And they would have paid cash for whatever.
I can't think of taxation as anything to do with logic, Fab. So yeah, we can't even go there. But yeah, I see what you're saying. In the CRA's eyes, that's a transaction, and
it's a transaction. It's a transaction. Now, in my example, where I'm doing accounting work for a lawyer, and the lawyer's doing legal work for me, right? If these are business to business, is the CRA, is the Canada losing anything? No, because I'm going to write off the lawyer's work and the lawyer's going to write off my work and I'm going to get the input tax credit and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's a wash. It's a wash.
We're net neutral. However, if I have a landscaper and I do their accounting for free and they mow my lawn and clear my driveway throughout the year, and that's our barter situation, society actually loses. Okay.
How so? If the value is similar,
I can't write off the landscaping because it's to my personal home.
Oh, personal home, yeah.
So the HST is a value added tax, which many, many countries have. And that is a value added tax means that it goes, from business to business until the ultimate consumer pays the value added tax, pays the HST. So society has lost 13% of that transaction. Okay.
Except now because the government shut down your office because of their COVID lockdowns.
Yeah.
Then maybe. Now we can stick it back to them.
We get the concept.
Right. But then we get into the other theoretical, they could just print more money, right?
Sure.
So we don't even have to go there.
But society has actually lost there. So if you're paying with Bitcoin or transacting in Bitcoin, you have to understand that Canadian tax returns must be reported in Canadian dollars, essentially. So what happens is if I buy something from you in Bitcoin, you must still charge me HST. You can collect the HST in Bitcoin, and that transaction has to be reported on your tax return at Canadian dollars at the moment that it was transacted on.
Got it. The Canadian dollar equivalent. You figure out the HST, and that's owed.
And one other factor, because if you bought the Bitcoin at $100, and when you're using the Bitcoin, like when you're using it to pay for the services, it's worth 1,000.
Yes.
Then you have to claim the gain on that Bitcoin as well.
Exactly. And we go back to, are you investing in Bitcoin? Or are you using Bitcoin as a currency?
Sure.
You know what I mean?
That's why the government's just got to be freaking out, because they haven't been able to keep up with this. They're so far behind the 8-ball, and there's already more transactions happening. I mean, it's not a huge amount, but they must be freaking out because their level of control is slowly slipping.
If you think about those,
they're going to fight to get it back.
At this point, they probably just look at it as level of amount they could collect.
Yeah. But sorry, and that's what I mean by that, because it was easier for them to just clamp down on people before, because it was so much easier with the transactions were easy.
This whole conversation is making me just think how crazy the government is.
Yes, I agree about that, but another thing is just it's the system. Like it's not just the government. It's so antiquated.
It's so
slow moving, and it's so antiquated, and they're trying to hold it back to be this old school system versus quickly trying to develop a new, better way. And they've had so much time to do it, and the writing's been on the wall for this for a long time now, and they just move at a snail's pace.
Okay.
Well, they better move fast, because the market cap of Bitcoin is over $1 trillion at the moment.
Yeah.
So
I think it's actually
it's
like
almost
900. Actually, on the screen behind me, it'll flash to you the US dollar. At some point, you'll see 900 and something. It's just under $1 trillion today.
I'm in Canadian dollars. It's
actually you're right. Sorry, in Canadian dollars it is.
So they better move fast. And there are precedents. It's like, listen, if you guys open up a business account in US dollars, right? I mean, you're transacting US dollars. It's pretty straightforward, right? There's a currency gain and loss and whatnot, and you're not
it's the
speculating.
same principles. So keep going with your explanations then.
Okay, so perfect. So then we've covered the mining, we've covered the secondary transaction which would be transacting. What is the one that is the most, let's call it, gray area, and that is speculating or investing in Bitcoin? And this is where I'm gonna have to. I'm sorry, I got to pull up my notes.
No, pull
But I got to ask you, why is that? How is that a gray area? To me, that seems simple. If we're saying it's an asset similar to like a gold or silver or whatever stock, and you're buying it,
because they haven't called it out exactly yet.
Oh, because
it's more difficult to make the determination, right? Because
what it is.
If you're mining, you're clearly running a business. If you're transacting in Bitcoin, you're clearly transacting in. But if I buy and sell Bitcoin as part of my portfolio, am I running a business or am I getting it on capital? That's the area. That's probably the toughest. Every time that somebody comes to me, I have to make the determination from scratch. If someone calls me and says, "Hey, I'm mining Bitcoin," it's a 2-second conversation. Yeah, business income, done.
But that's the same as if they're buying or selling anything. Isn't it the same conversation?
No, they have not called in the Income Tax Act. There is no specific declaration of Bitcoin yet. That's why it's a gray area.
No. But Nick has a very good point.
Yeah,
it's
Tom,
the same as
a very good point.
It's the same as any asset class. It's like I buy and sell gold or gold futures, right?
Facebook stock, whatever.
Or Facebook stock. Is it capital or is it
Oh, on that point.
Do you see what I'm saying?
So that's what you're saying is the gray area?
That's the gray area, right? Because what happens is, people come to me and they're like, do you have a taxable account? I'm like, sure. Okay, get me your gain and loss report from the broker. And I get the gain and loss report and there's 5 transactions during the year. I'm just going to throw a capital gain, but people have given me their gain and loss report. I'm like, buddy, you made 1,500 trades this year.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Right?
So if you're going back and forth, if you're trading the market,
do you get it?
Because it's so volatile, because it moves so much, people are trading.
But if you're buying and holding this stuff, it's very clear to FAB.
I think so, yeah.
But if you're buying and selling in and out, then you have to make the determination.
Is it like a side business or is it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So let's go through the criteria that they're going to use, and they apply the same criteria.
You're about to upset a lot of people. Securities. So you have at it.
Okay.
Fabio, Domenico.
Domenico would be if I'm.
Yes, sorry, Domenico. Fabio, Domenico.
Yeah.
Campanella.
Yeah. So, okay, look, point 1, frequency of transactions. That's pretty obvious. Okay. And that's applied to, real estate, stocks, commodities, Bitcoin. It doesn't matter. The more frequent, the more they're looking at business transactions.
But there's no absolute number here.
No absolute number. It's a gut feeling.
Can I? Okay.
Right.
As we go through this, there's
point number 1 is already up for debate.
Yeah. But I'm curious if it is business. So if you work, a T4 income, so you work as a first salary, you have T4 income, and then you're doing this on the side and is business income. So it's not through a separate corporation or something.
Yeah.
What tax rate do you get taxed if it's business income to you personally?
Your marginal rate. So in Ontario, if you're
really?
earning income at the highest marginal rate, you're paying 53.53%.
Mm-hmm. So it's just added on to your personal income.
Correct.
So you still get your average rate. It's not all taxed at the highest bracket. It's just added to your personal income.
Never look at transactions at the average rate. Always look at it at the marginal rate.
That always makes it worse for me.
Of course. So I mean, but that's what's realistic. So if you're earning $250,000 or whatever it is per year, you don't want to look at your average tax rate. You want to look at the margin. So what is $1 extra going to attract in tax? That's how you make your ROI calculations.
Got it. Okay. We need 3 accounts in here to all argue about what Fabio just said, because I
No, but it makes sense because if you have the salary, which is pretty much not guaranteed, but as long as you keep your job, it's you would think it's
every extra dollars
is going to be taxed at that rate.
Right.
So,
and that's more of a finance concept than a taxation concept.
Yeah,
right?
That makes sense.
So frequency of transactions. The more frequent, the more you're looking at business. Okay. But frequency of transaction is not the only. It's one of a number of things, but it's the first one. Okay. The next is the period of ownership. And this is exactly the same as the concept for real estate. Okay. Are you buying Bitcoin and then flipping it right away as soon as, you know what I mean? So the classic example here would be, people that are trading intraday and they're trying to take advantage of intraday changes or volatility, right? So the frequency of transactions when you're trading intraday are going to be high, right? And the period of ownership is going to be low. These are 2 strikes against you. Okay, that's more
meaning it would be business income.
Exactly.
Okay,
right?
so now after each point, I'm gonna have a question. I think so. So I'm just curious. Do some people, if you are doing that type of setup and they're trading intraday, would some people do it through a corporation? And if you set up a separate corporation to do this, I don't know if you can or not. And if you do, then how does the tax work? Is it because I guess it's not it's not active business, so you don't get the small business.
I mean, theoretically, you could. I don't see why not. If you're running a business and the CRA determines that it's a business, then you're saying, okay, the Bitcoin is my inventory and I'm flipping it. I'd go for active business income, right? Okay. Theoretically, right? That's what's happening.
Yeah, until a determination is made. You know. Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Right. Okay, so the frequency of transaction, the period of ownership. Then there's going to be the knowledge of the securities market or the knowledge of the market, right? If you're just some guy sitting around like doing it on the side, you don't even know what a Bitcoin is, and you're playing with Bitcoin, are they really going to bother you? You're probably not going to be at it for a long time, right? So it's knowledge of the industry that factors into it. So let's go back to real estate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go back to real estate.
Do you have to play that music in the background when you're doing it?
You got to play the clown music, right?
Okay.
But let's say if we go to real estate and I have a property and the 2 of you have a property and, I enter into 2 or 3 transactions in 1 year for whatever reason, and my period of ownership is low, and you guys do the exact same thing. Okay, so just on these first 3 criteria, the CRA is more likely to see the 2 of you as running a business than me, because I'm an accountant, a financial planner, you guys are realtors, and you have vast knowledge of the real estate market. So they're like, no. You guys knew what was going on. You bought low and sold high. You had an idea. You had inside knowledge. Whereas this guy just got lucky. Do you see what I'm saying?
Totally. Yeah.
So those are the first 3. You have a question? Nope. All right.
I'll think of another one.
Okay. The next one is securities transactions form a part of the taxpayer's ordinary business, or let's say Bitcoin transactions form part of your ordinary business, right? So that is a tough one, because does it really form a part of anyone's ordinary business? Maybe. Let's say you're running a company that mines Bitcoin, okay? And then once you're rewarded with Bitcoin, you start speculating like crazy with it, and you start taking advantage of intraday volatility and blah, blah, blah. At that point, the CRA is like, hey, everything's business income here. You can't just claim business income on the Bitcoin reward and then capital gain on the Bitcoin sales. Bitcoin is your business. Do you see what I mean?
I get where they're coming from. Sure. Because you're buying and selling it. Sure. Yeah. Okay.
The next thing would be time spent on the activity. Okay. Are you thinking about, are you doing Bitcoin transactions all the time? And you have no job, or you know what I mean? Are you a T4 employee that, buys and sells Bitcoin once in a while? Or are you successfully trading Bitcoin for a profit and doing it all day long?
Got it.
Right?
I thought you were going to say, are you thinking about Bitcoin all day? Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So these have all come from different decisions in the past where the government's lost.
You got it.
And then they're like, oh, we lost here.
Here's why we lost.
We got to close this loophole. Yeah.
Well, it's actually probably more where the government has won. Right. So where the government loses outright, what do they end up doing? They just write new laws.
That's what I'm saying. I think at one point in time they've lost.
None of this stuff is law. These are all guidelines. Okay.
Oh, I see.
Do you see what I'm saying? The next thing.
So what you're reading off, these are guidelines from CRA.
These are guidelines
but these
from
are
the
not
CRA.
Part of the Income Tax Act in Canada.
They're not necessarily provisions in the Income Tax Act.
Oh,
so you can fight.
So
it
you can argue back and forth.
Yeah,
you can argue back and forth. Right.
Okay.
The next would be financing. Are you buying the Bitcoin to sell it with just your savings, or are you financing it? And how complex is that financing? So are you going and getting a HELOC and for $50,000 and buying and selling Bitcoin once in a while? Or are you going out there, getting private financing, getting bank loans, and heavily leveraging your transactions? The more leverage that's applied and the more complex the leverage, the more we're looking at business income rather than.
So everything you've discussed so far, because there's more points.
There's a couple more.
Okay, but everything is so far for someone who's just buying it and holding it, whether it's themselves personally or inside a corporation that they own. And by holding it, I mean holding it for a period, let's say, of a year or longer. That's to me sounding like capital gains.
Yeah. And I have a couple extreme examples in here to give.
Sure.
That'll actually show you exactly what you're saying.
Got it. But keep going. Sorry, let's hear them all.
So there's 2 more. Then advertising. Are you out there advertising? That doesn't mean you're taking out ads, right? Are you out there on Twitter with 50,000 followers and you are saying, hey, I'm doing this. Here's my trade today, blah, 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 so on and so forth.
Oh my gosh.
And you're
looking
looking
for people doing that.
You're selling a book on it. Are you advertising that you are in this and that you're some sort of an expert?
Like if you talk about it on every podcast you do.
No, but I just hold it.
No,
I'm
I'm
not trading it.
Yeah.
I'm holding. I'm the classical definition of you buy it and you never see it again.
Then the last thing would be in the case of shares, which Bitcoin are not shares, it's their nature, right? Is it a dividend paying stock or is it a dividend paying? But Bitcoin doesn't pay a dividend. The nature of it is that it's almost like a currency or a commodity, right? So from that one's it's in the guidelines, but it's not really something big, right? So none of these things in and of itself, no point here will be the silver bullet that makes you that makes a determination of business income versus capital gain. It's a collection of all of them, and that this is the checklist that an auditor would presumably be going through. Now, just full disclosure, I've never dealt with a Bitcoin audit for any of my clients at this point, right?
Not yet, but you can tell that kind of stuff's coming.
And just so everyone, like anyone listening that may not know, the reason why the CRA would try to, if it's in their personal name, would want to include it into their personal income, business income versus capital gains, is because the business income is taxed at their marginal rate, whereas if it's capital gains, the first half of it is tax-free, correct? So they want the greater tax.
Yeah. A lot of this, I wonder if it becomes a bit mute. Let's kind of say the Liberals win this upcoming election with a majority. I'm just hypothetically. I'm just like hypothetically throwing that. Let's just hypothetically say that this happens.
You're giving this guy a heart attack.
But the capital gains, I think a lot of the accountants we speak with, Fab, and I'd be interested in your thinking on it. Many people are thinking capital gains is going to, the rate's going to go up, or the way it's calculated is going to go up.
Or just a wealth tax overall.
Yeah. So that a lot of what we're talking about, maybe this doesn't even matter because the capital gains rate's going to be so high that whether it's business income or capital gains, it's all the freaking same. Anyway, that's just a hypothetical for the future that we can talk about another time.
Well, I mean, even from that particular perspective, this whole game could be changed. This whole game overnight. Of making determination by saying, let's create two types of capital gains. If you buy and sell something within a year, it's short-term capital gain, it's taxed at 75%. Something longer term, but then what happens is people will design their affairs to circumvent that.
It's a cat and mouse game all the time.
Totally.
Right?
It's always a cat and mouse game.
What were the extreme cases that you were going to share?
Okay, so here, some person, okay, they're a stock trader by a stock an investment advisor by trade. Okay, they buy and sell Bitcoin on all their client accounts. They're always on Twitter talking about Bitcoin. They're advertising that they trade in Bitcoin. They're trading Bitcoin every single day on their own account. It's frequently trading. They're borrowing against their home to invest. Something like that is an extreme example. They're ticking off every single box. That's clearly business income. Okay, but let's say one of your listeners, said, hey, what's this Bitcoin thing 6 years ago and bought it at whatever, I don't know what it was, at like $5,000, whatever, forgot about it. They bought one Bitcoin. Now they're like, oh, it's like 60 grand. And they're like, I need to buy a house. Then they sell their Bitcoin. That's the only transaction they've ever entered into. They don't follow any Bitcoin Twitter or nothing. That's clearly capital gain. Okay.
So wait a second. Why did you throw in they don't follow anything on Twitter? Because
they're not spending any time.
I know, but
on it,
but how would CRA, just on that point, how would CRA decide if you're spending any time or not? Like, you think CRA would actually come back to somebody and say, you just did this one transaction, but we see you on Twitter commenting about.
Oh, I just threw that in as a comment, but they will look to your social media. The CRA,
and that's why I'm asking.
The CRA will look.
Sorry,
to your
that's where I'm
media.
coming from. They will look at your social media.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they will look at your social media.
I'm never talking about Bitcoin on social media again.
I mean, it's all public knowledge, right? Yeah. It's all public. There's probably 150, 160,000 employees at the CRA. Somebody's going to be connected to you on Twitter or Facebook. Totally. You know what I mean? So from that particular perspective, I bought a Bitcoin a couple years ago, or nowadays, you can buy Bitcoin in a mutual fund or an ETF. You buy it, hold it, leave it, maybe trade it once every couple of years, and it's just part of your overall portfolio. And your portfolio is pretty calm, not a lot of turnover, and it's just sitting on the side. You bought all the stocks with savings from your T4 job that you work 8 hours a day at, things like that. It's like nobody needs to really worry about that. That's probably capital gain. It's a non-issue. You just report it as capital gain, right? But it's when you're starting to tick all these boxes off, that's when it's gonna be in the gray area, right? And so let's say you go to your accountant at the end of the year, and they ask for the details of your transactions. And literally, there's one of my clients came to me. This was when Bitcoin crashed. The poor guy lost $1 million. It was crazy. But anyways, at the end of the day, this guy gave me his trades. I'm like, there's over 10,000 lines on this spreadsheet. Like, what the hell were you doing? He's like, I was just trading day in, day out, day in, day out.
Some people get really addicted,
Holy
like trade.
smokes.
Some people get really addicted to
Wow.
trading. They
It obviously
yeah,
seems
very
that way. I
addictive.
can't get into that.
No, I can't. It actually drives me crazy. I just know my emotional state. Like I'm not good at that. Like I will like it's
Nick
just,
would be throwing the laptop across.
no,
the
it's not even just that. It's like as it goes up, I'm like, oh man, I should be buying more. As it goes down, I'm
How
like,
do you
oh, should I
control
just
your
sell?
emotions?
Like I would like buy high and sell low. Always. I'm not good. I like buy, hold. I'm an old school guy.
And that's the thing, right? So it depends. Some people just they love the rush,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so they're just trading all day. They're trading options, they're trading this, trading that. And it's the frequency, the time spent, all of these things connect together. And there are some people that trade very frequently. But at the end of the day, they lose a lot of money, and that's where the CRA will be like, no, it's capital gain, capital loss, because
they
capital
get
loss,
more.
Yeah.
They get more.
it's a capital loss.
Okay, that's not now. CRA is not playing nice.
But they're
So
not.
in
Their
that
job
case,
isn't
he had
to
$1
play
million.
nice.
So he had $1 million loss.
Yeah,
but that should be $1 million business income type loss.
right. But that
But
that
they
attracts-
argued that it's CRA's arguing.
Nobody
no,
argued anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But by default, they go to that.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So then you have to argue in this case, you want it to be business income.
Exactly. You want it to be business, right? So you have to have your ducks all lined up because you're making a very aggressive stance on your personal tax return, right?
Sure, because you have this
claim
massive
$1 million
yeah.
loss, right? And this person earns a lot of money, like about half a million plus per year. That's a lot of tax revenue taken away. We had a strategy for this particular individual, and it worked out well. But in the end, we did not claim a business loss for
because you
him.
were able to work it in a different way.
There were
that
other
everybody was
gains
comfortable with.
and whatnot, and at the end of the day, that's a very aggressive stance, and it might be very justified, but you might have to defend it, and defending it could be costly and time consuming and stressful.
Like everything.
Right.
I wonder, so where do you think we're headed? I was saying through the grapevine, some of our connections, I was mentioning to Fab earlier, Nick, that we're hearing that some of the digital platforms and what we would call exchanges, I guess, are saying they're about to be, or they're close to being regulated here. And I think the regulation or the regulatory body or the status they're going to get is through IROC.
Yeah, I thought it was the same IROC
Is
thing
that
that you mentioned that.
Yeah. So what does that mean to you if I tell you some of these exchanges in Canada are about to be regulated through IROC?
So,
and this is all hypothetical. None of this has happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really looked into that. I mean, IROC is the Investment Industry Regulatory Authority of Canada, right? But from that particular perspective, Bitcoin, it needs to be, from the government's perspective, must be regulated, right? Because securities are regulated, national currencies are regulated.
So if IROC's going to regulate, do you think it's going to be classified as a security? No. IROC could regulate and it'll be a commodity.
I think isn't the
Or
US
does it matter?
Currency? I'm
So
actually,
it doesn't matter that IROC's regulating it. That has no bearing on.
I actually haven't heard that it's IROC.
Okay.
That's going to be regulating this.
What have you heard?
I've heard nothing.
Oh, okay.
I've heard nothing. I know the SEC is trying to figure something out in the States. I really look to the Americans to figure this out.
Well, haven't the states said they look at it as a commodity? Like there was some ruling that came out a while ago. That's what I mean. This was months ago.
Maybe.
Though. Like I know it hasn't all been finalized, but I know there was something that came up. That's how looks like they're going to be treating it. But I mean,
yeah,
I know it's all being worked out formally right now. Right?
Well, from a regulatory standpoint, right, it should be regulated because it's and this is once again from the government of the world's perspective, right? So if you're following sort of these big macroeconomic issues, the governments of the world, the main wealthy nations, they need to make sure they're collecting tax, right? So one of the things they're looking at is people offshoring things or entering into these transactions whereby, I have my head office in the Cayman Islands and it charges a management fee to my American company, and my American company is, making no profit,
loses money.
Exactly, right? So the other thing they're going to be looking at is how are people financing each other? So Bitcoin is a very attractive asset for many practical reasons, but it's also a very attractive asset for terrorists and criminals. Okay, so the governments of the world have a vested
unlike the
interest.
U.S. dollar. that's not an attractive asset for
the US dollar is
all the cocaine, all the cocaine smugglers have been using for decades.
The US dollar is very attractive, but paper cash is difficult to move around.
Sure.
Okay. It requires.
But I would argue that paper cash is more anonymous than Bitcoin. And so I would probably argue that physical cash is more attractive.
So here, I have another argument. They just pay off the banks to wash all their money anyways. And that's factual because look what happened all through Europe and stuff and all those banks. So there's lots of ways around that.
There's a lot of ways to launder money, right? Yeah. But it's getting more and more difficult.
We should have a podcast on laundering money. Mm-hmm. Strategies to launder money.
It is getting more and more difficult. One of the, low level, let's say drug dealers would simply, they'd open up a social club. You know what I mean? Yeah. And my social club makes X amount of money, or a bar. It's like, we got money, coming in from the nowadays you can go to a bar and who's paying cash? Mm-hmm. Right.
So your point is that it's going to be regulated just because there's money to take here and the governments aren't currently getting it and they need the tax revenue.
They need the tax revenue and they need to track people. Let's be, very honest here. They need to track the flow of money. Mm-hmm. Right. They need to see.
That's the bigger. Right? That to me is almost the bigger thing. They need to try, and that's where that's where they're probably freaking out.
Right.
I wonder what happens here because I'm just kind of thinking this out. You got a country like El Salvador, which I think in the next week or two makes it a legal currency. Like it passes that bill and it makes Bitcoin a legal currency. So then doesn't this? How everyone in this space will talk about game theory, saying that okay, if a country like El Salvador is doing that, so you're not taxed, it's a currency. Couldn't you just move a bunch of your Bitcoin to El Salvador, open an account there? I don't understand what status
you're not supposed to. If you take it, my understanding is if you take assets out of the country, so if you here and you move your Bitcoin officially as a Canadian, you move it to, let's say, an account down there or whatever it is, then isn't it deemed disposition? You pay tax on the value of it at the time.
No, if you break residency from Canada.
If you move
break residency, okay.
If you're renouncing Canada as a
But if I took $1 million and I moved it down there, you mean I don't have to pay tax on it? There's nothing to say that in the Bitcoin. I bought it for what, 1,000. It's worth $1 million.
No, I'm just hypothetically saying.
And so am I. And I'm just asking, is there no tax implications to me if I do that?
Let's think of something like this. Let's say you own a bunch of bank stocks here in Canada at, I don't know, whatever, Scotia Capital. And then you decide, you know what, I'm going to move it to TD Waterhouse. Are you going to pay tax?
But it's still in Canada.
Right? It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you're just moving, you're putting the asset from one custodian to another.
I guess I've just never thought how easy it is now to move it out of the borders.
You have to report it. You are taxable on your worldwide income and you must report foreign holdings on your Canadian tax return. Right?
Screw that, man.
So you got to report it not only on your Canadian tax return for gains and losses, but you also have to report it on a special form that reports all foreign transactions. They want to isolate foreign transactions because they want to see what's going on outside of Canada, right?
Okay.
Similar. The in the U.S., the Treasury, you have to file something called an FBAR, where if you have a certain amount of cash sitting in foreign accounts, you have to report the monthly balance to the Treasury. Mm-hmm. Right. So when
we opened up bank accounts in Croatia, first thing they asked us was, are we American citizens? And if we were, they weren't going to open the accounts because they didn't want to deal with the IRS. But we were Canadian citizens and they were willing to open the accounts. By the way, Fab, a bank that we dealt with in Croatia went bankrupt. So you know how nobody thinks banks go bankrupt?
No, they go bankrupt all the time.
Just in Canada, people don't. So why can't?
No, I was going to say what's interesting about this whole conversation is it wasn't long ago that maybe even you, I don't know, but it would be really unlikely that we were just even talking about this
moving money around.
This being regulated and the regulations around it. It was more like, well, no, they're just going to shut it down. It's going to be illegal. Right. Like that the
conversation seems to be now that's going to be regulated
much more, even in the government circles, Canada and the US, there's much more focus on regulating it than saying, okay, we got to just get rid of this thing. Mm-hmm. Right. So that hasn't taken long for that shift to kind of change. Well, I mean, long since I guess we've been more involved in it longer than, but once it became more mainstream,
it's just funny to me that years. I know what Fab's saying about moving money and you report it. It's just that it's going to be able to be moved so quickly now. Like you can move it
to 5 different countries and do 100 different things before they even know.
Right? For example, you know how Ledin here in Toronto, Ledin's a digital bank where you could deposit your Bitcoin or you can buy USDC, the US dollar, one of the US dollar stable coins and you can earn interest on that. And I think people from other countries are using lead-in to deposit and do things here. And I'm just thinking, well, wait a second, that interest is going to be reported here in Canada. But if you're from Colombia depositing money at lead-in here in Canada, earning interest, sure, maybe you're going to report that you have your Bitcoin or whatever in another country, if people are going to say that on their tax return in Colombia or not. But the interest, do you think they're going to be reporting that interest income? And so I'm just wondering, and I'm not saying someone will or won't do that. I'm just wondering, there are so many things that are about to happen. Well, this banking industry is about to get devastated. Yeah. They don't even know that they're getting.
And you're not even considering over the counter derivatives. I can enter into a swap transaction for Canadian dollars versus Bitcoin, let's say, with somebody in Japan, right? Whatever it is. So these types of transactions are contractual, right? So you have options that trade on exchanges. You can have an option. I can have an option between you and I under a private contract, right? So now we're looking at it. It's very difficult to control it all because there's private contracts with options, futures, swaps. There's cold wallet, which I don't understand really how it works because I'm not a scientist, but
it's really easy. We'll tell you after the podcast. Don't worry, it's not hard.
But the regulation has already started in some cases. In Canada, for example, you can buy prospectus-based financial products that all they do is hold Bitcoin. So there's mutual fund manufacturers that will sell you a Bitcoin product that strikes a NAV or a net asset value every single day, and you can subscribe in and pull out. Then there's closed-ended funds that trade on the Toronto Stock Exchange that you can buy intraday. So these things have been cleared by the regulatory authorities here in Canada. So, the regulation is already started.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time.
It's got to flesh it all out.
Right.
What happens when those products, because they're not we're in a small market still, right? So they're not regular, they're not approved yet in the US.
Oh, geez.
But when those first ETFs get approved,
if you look at how much money flew into the Purpose ETF, that Bitcoin ETF, and then just extrapolate that to the US market.
Yeah. And that was Purpose. And that was after already the first one that I bought, I forget what it was called. That first one was set up and there was already money in that one.
Yeah. 3IQ's fund. Yeah. The Bitcoin fund.
That was the closed one. And then, and then Purpose, it just exploded it, right?
Well, now you have open-ended funds that a retail investor can just simply buy, put $500 in.
That's Purpose, isn't it?
I think that's Purpose. Is that referred to?
So a mutual fund is an open-ended fund.
Okay.
Money goes in and out. You're actually putting money into the fund and out. An ETF or a closed-ended fund that trades on the Toronto Stock Exchange, it's not money coming in and out. It's me and you trading with each other.
So what's the difference between an open-ended? Why that's just a different style of fund?
It's just a different style of fund. The fund manufacturer will take subscriptions and give you redemptions. So most hedge funds, private equity funds, mutual funds, that's how they operate. ETFs are a little bit more complicated. So they can inject money in and out. Closed-ended funds are just that, they're closed in essence. And I need to buy your shares off you, and it's a transaction on the outside of the fund.
Yeah, got it. I see. Right? Okay. So then what about you as a financial, what do you like to be referred to? Financial? I feel like you're a tax guy who knows finances and manages people's money.
Really, I concentrate on tax, estate, and investment advisory.
So someone who does what you do, are you able to buy Bitcoin easily, or does your industry try to say, no, stay away from that stuff?
So my industry, the investment industry is regulated. It's I can't just go out and buy, derivatives, for example. I can't trade futures on your account. I also choose not to be options traded.
But can you buy Bitcoin?
You can buy Bitcoin. Yeah, I can buy Bitcoin for clients.
Through an ETF.
Through an ETF or through a mutual fund.
Okay. Can you buy Bitcoin?
Am I allowed to buy Bitcoin? Of course. Yeah.
You are?
Yeah. Generally, it's through an ETF or through a mutual fund.
Yeah, you can't buy it you can't buy it directly through an exchange where you own it and put it off to a cold wallet yourself. Is that just frowned upon?
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it frowned upon?
I believe I don't know if I can or can't. It would have to be definitely disclosed to my brokerage and to the regulator. I'm going to have to get back to you on that, but I just wouldn't do it.
No, personally. I get it. I'm just curious. Why does that kind of thing, what else has to be disclosed like that? If you buy gold and take it home?
if you buy gold and take it home, I don't think that has to be disclosed. But if you're buying gold on an exchange, this is what they're trying to stop you from doing. Okay. I'm a stockbroker, investment, whatever you want to call it. Okay. You're my client. Okay. And you say, hey, Fab, I got $25 million that I believe in this particular company.
Got it. I see.
And I'm taking an unsolicited trade from you. Then I front it by putting it into my wife's account somewhere else. I know that it's going to trigger a gain in the market. So you know what I'm saying?
So your industry wants to regulate you from that point of view.
Exactly. Because the temptation exists and that these sort of things happen.
Yeah. Got it.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So I have knowledge of the industry and I'm going to front run a trade. Like they want to stop that. Yeah. So, you know, you want to buy things on account, you know, mutual funds, ETFs. I'm not sure if we're allowed to, just go out and get a cold wallet and
sure.
I'm not sure. I would say
you're allowed, Fab. You're allowed.
Yeah. Okay. I would say just
we got an extra
probably
one here. We're going to give you one. We're going to
it.
set you up in 5 minutes. You're good to go.
How much in the last, you know, whatever, 12, 18 months, how much have you seen the interest in the crypto space change in your client base? Like how many more questions are you getting about it versus like, is it just?
I would say 2 years ago, I was getting no questions. And now I'm starting to get some questions. Most of my clients are, you know, a lot of my clients are of retirement age.
Yeah, so they've made their wealth.
Yeah, they made their wealth. They're like, Fab, just, you know, give me some dividends and, you know.
Give me some decent returns.
I need to, whatever companies you're buying, I need to know what they are, right? So they want to see companies that they know, right? The younger clients, they're more interested.
Who would your younger clients be? Someone who's already at a younger age made some money? I feel like your clients are typically people who are bringing some money to the table already.
You know, I've changed my strategy on that. I used to be like, you know, if you don't have $500,000, I don't even want to talk to you. Okay. But then I'm sitting back and
that's a nice way to put it.
Fabio, you're a nice person. But don't even talk to me.
Now I'm looking at it like, hey, you know what? There's these people in their 30s that have
these people.
They have 450,000, not $500,000. So,
but they have so much potential and they want the guidance. And I'm like, you know what? Whatever. Give me a couple bucks and let's start the process.
Got it. So you're looking for the right mindset.
Yeah. And they have the right mindset. They're busy and, you know.
We didn't even talk to Fabio about NFTs yet.
No, I know.
We don't even know. Fabio, if you are listening to this and not watching this, when we said NFTs, Fabio just put up his hand like, no, don't even talk to me about that.
Yeah.
We're not at the cold wallet stage still.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. But even younger now, I'm starting to I'm like, hey, I'll help these people because I can. Oftentimes what happens with the younger clients, I'm like, they're like, can I trade on my own? I'm like, listen, for all your crazy ideas, have your own side account. And just go crazy.
For all your crazy ideas.
One of their crazy ideas ends up being very profitable.
No, but some of these people make really good money.
Okay, right? So they're not crazy ideas.
No, but the thing is the volatility. I don't want to deal with that kind of volatility. I don't want a phone call saying, hey, I want to buy this like thing on the venture exchange, right? Yeah. So I'm like,
we'll tell him, we're going to show him some NFT stuff after this.
Give me your safe money. Give me your safe money. Let me plan it out for you. And I'm sort of like, you know, your GP and you see me every anywhere from 3 months to 1 year, whatever. And we take a look at your financial picture. And then you have this money on the side where you're implementing your ideas. I'm like, why are you paying me? These are your ideas, right?
Yeah, just go and do them.
Do them for $10 a trade, right?
Yeah, got it.
There's no point.
Cool. How did you've been doing this for a long time already. How old are you? You're not that old.
44. Well, I'm 44 in a couple days.
You're 44. You're looking good, dude.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you got to get your eyes checked, maybe.
No.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah,
no, that's
Tom's got glasses
that
now. So
yeah. Since I got them, I've never needed them, but I do now have glasses.
There you
go. I feel like you've been doing this for a long time. Just your wealth of knowledge in this area is really deep.
I've been at it in some capacity, full time for almost 20 years. Now. So, and the thing is, I got lucky in that I jumped from a bunch of different places. So I worked at small accounting firms, medium size, large accounting firms. I was in the hedge fund industry, the wealth management industry. So I did about 10 years of just everything before I started getting into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's helped you a lot.
So I think that helped me, giving me that broad, I didn't specialize right away. I had a broad sort of spectrum of work that I worked in. But technically, I remember when I was 13 years old, because my father was a CPA, and he ran his own firm. And some of the clients
What was
that
his
I have,
name? Also a heavy Italian.
Giovanni.
Okay. Okay.
And I mean, I'm working on some clients now that I used to work on when I was 13, 14 years old, because, he retained them. And then when he retired, I took over his book. And some of these guys are still here, but it's the son or the daughter that's running the business, right?
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's interesting. So you've seen some generational wealth.
Right.
And I guess you see some generational wealth just get wasted too.
I've seen generational wealth get wasted, but I've seen, if guided correctly, I've seen more
compounded.
Yes, I've seen it grow exponentially.
That's good to hear.
Awesome.
Yeah. You often hear the reverse or the opposite stories, right? So it's nice to hear
the
those
opposite
ones.
May be the norm. I don't know, but for the people that I'm dealing with, a lot of people have transitioned wealth to the next generation quite effectively. And to be honest, this is probably the area of practice that I'm starting to really concentrate on the most. It's the transition from one to the other, because the baby boomers are now at the point where they need to make this transition, right?
So we want to bring you back for two things. Before the end of the year, we think some regulations are going to be passed in Canada from what we're hearing. So I want to bring you back just to, once you digest that, to get your opinion on that, and to talk about life insurance and estate planning. That topic's been coming up a lot. And Nick, Fab has some great ways to use life insurance. We're talking about the high cash value policies in the past. He has other policies where he's getting people to get policies and somebody else is paying the premium. So we'll talk about all that stuff. We'll save that for another episode.
Sure.
Fab, so if someone's looking to work with you, how can they reach out to you? What's the best way?
At the moment, just email me. So it's Fabio, Fabio, at cmllp.com. And I'm probably not going to answer you right away, but I'll get back to you in a couple days.
Yeah, so Fabio at cmllp.com. Fab, appreciate this, man. Thank you. Anything else you wanted to slip in before we wrap up?
No, I think if the only thing that I want to say is if you want the details on the Bitcoin taxation, you can go to cmllp.com on blog, and it's the latest blog post there. And all the criteria is there, and I have a link to the more detailed criteria that the CRA has put out.
Okay, so cmllp.com, hit blog on the menu.
Correct.
It's the first and latest post.
Correct.
Depending on when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
And if all the details that you shared today are there with links to CRA.
Correct.
Awesome. Fab, thank you so much. Always appreciate this, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. You can find every new episode of the Your Life, Your Term show on all the major streaming platforms. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. And if you'd like to get free copies of some of the books that we've put together, like these right here, or some of the reports that we've put together, like these right here, you can find all of those at www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's www.rockstarinnercircle.com. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.